I have been involved in sport since I was really young, and I finally settled on athletics as the sport that I was going to do more permanently, and obviously commit my time to and really kind of challenge myself to see how good I could be. So through all of my school years and as I went into university, athletics became a bigger and bigger part of my life. And I absolutely loved it, the training, getting in the gym, training with other people in a little group, doing little circuits and all sorts of things like that. And as I got older, it just fascinated me why doing these certain sessions and doing these certain movement patterns were making me better at what it was I was trying to do. Why was it making me a faster sprinter? Why was it making me more flexible with my hurdling? Why were my positions getting better when I was trying to hurdle? And so I started to kind of read into that and look into that and learn a little bit more about it. I started to know a little bit about strength and conditioning as I came to university. I didn't do strength and conditioning from a young age, so it was more kind of bodyweight circuits and things like that as I was younger at my athletics club. So as I got older, I learned a little bit more about this world of strength and conditioning. And it wasn't until I actually had quite a bad injury in my back as I was at university that I actually started to look more into strength and conditioning and why was I getting this injury and how could I train to stop myself getting this injury again? How can I make myself stronger than I ever have been before so that I'm not going to have this soreness in my back the whole time, and every time I finish training that I've got to go and ice and all the rest of it. It just didn't seem right to me. So that injury really spurred me into learning more about strength and conditioning, and from there I just gradually kind of shifted from learning about strength and conditioning to teaching other people about it and coaching people and helping them write training sessions that were going to help them in their performance. After university I did an internship for strength and conditioning while still training myself, and I started writing my own programs for strength and conditioning, and I just loved it, and I started to write programs for other people. And from there, I just found kind of one job after another in strength and conditioning, and I loved it, being able to help other people, see them progress and see them develop as they kind of get stronger and they get fitter. And it just went from there, really. It was fantastic. Strength and conditioning training is really important for absolutely everybody. Particularly for our athletes, it's really important that we make them strong enough and fit enough to handle the demands of their training and competition. We can improve their performances by using kind of maximal strength training, endurance training, and all sorts of things like that, but we can also help keep them training for longer. If we can avoid them getting injured and give them better kind of robustness and stability of all of their joints and their muscles, then they can stay in their technical sessions for longer. For example, our swimmers, we want to make sure that their shoulders are strong enough and robust enough to handle all of the swimming sessions that they do. Quite often this is 2 sessions a day, so they've got to be able to do that every single day through the week. So being able to be strong enough to handle the demands of that training session is really important for those guys. For everyone else, strength and conditioning can vary massively from person to person. So we do a lot of kind of balance training and stability training in the early days in terms of getting people robust enough to just start training. We do a lot of postural work and look at actually, how's your body aligned? Is it that when you're sitting at work, you're in really bad posture that's placing stress on certain areas of your body? And how can we mitigate against that? How can we reduce the amount of pain that you're feeling and discomfort through poor posture or weaknesses in certain areas of the body? I think the tips I would give someone about to start a strength and conditioning program would be to know exactly where you want to be in 4 to 6 weeks' time. What is the long-term plan? How is one session going to build up to the next one, and where do you want to finish up? What is it you're trying to get to? What is it you want to achieve? Is that, do you want to be able to do 10 bodyweight push-ups or a pull-up, or do you want to be able to do a single leg squat? What's the target for the end of the program? That always makes it a lot easier to kind of get started and get going, knowing what it is that you're trying to achieve in the end. I think another tip that I would give is definitely to ease yourself in gently and gradually build up the amount of work that you're doing. There's nothing worse than doing your first session back into training going too hard and spending the next week really sore and achy and stiff and just not wanting to do anything and not doing anything, to kind of follow up that training and to keep that kind of consistency of training going. So I think those would be my biggest 2 tips. Is 1, start easy and build it up as you go. Make sure that you're making those little steps the whole way along. And the second one is to know exactly what it is you're trying to achieve at the end. Why is it that you started this in the first place, and what do you want to see that in that progress towards the end of the session? There are so many reasons I love working with athletes. It can be so much fun and such a good laugh. I think the DIS athletes are a particularly interesting bunch. There's such a variety of characters in there, with the mix of different sports that we have involved in the programme. There's always something new or something different that the athletes are learning from each other, and also that I'm learning from the athletes as well. There's sports in there that I've never had a go at, so I can always learn something from the athletes too. I think one of the other reasons it's so much fun to work with athletes is because they are so motivated and so driven to achieve, and that just rubs off on you. And you know, when you're surrounded by people that really want to push themselves to be as best they can, it really kind of pushes you to be the best that you can as well. So I really love that element to it as well. Looking back at my own experiences of strength and conditioning, I think the biggest thing I would probably do differently is to get into more bespoke strength and conditioning training much earlier on. I think I was doing a lot of generic strength training and generic conditioning training as well, but I don't think that was right for me. I think there were some real positives of what I did do, and I think when I was younger, a lot of that training was kept really, really fun. Doing it in circuits with friends and my training group certainly made it really, really enjoyable. But I think having the specificity and, you know, a bespoke service based on my own movement patterns and what I wanted to achieve as an athlete would certainly have put me in a much better position than I was in when I finally got to kind of international level, and I started to get little niggles and injuries. I didn't really understand them that well. So learning all of those things earlier on with a strength and conditioning coach guiding me through the areas that I needed to work on, I certainly think would have been a much better way for me to develop as an athlete.